Now, let's look into the Earth and the universe. I'm going to now start telling you a little bit about the solar system that we live in, and then we'll go on to the stars and so forth. But first, let's look at the sun and the planets of our solar system. The sun is big, very big, compared to our Earth. You can put over 1 million Earths inside the volume of the sun. That's tremendous. And you can see the other planets, Jupiter being the biggest, and little Pluto, who's no longer considered a planet, he's over there too. Okay, I'll tell you more about him later. Okay? These are just the planets in our solar system. These are the gaseous planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus. And then the hardcore planets, solid core planets, they're Earth, Venus, Mars, which is only 1/3 the size of Earth, and Mercury, and then little Pluto. Okay? Let's first look at Mercury. Mercury is pretty close to the sun, about 50 million miles from the surface of the sun. Very hot. When you're that close to the sun, obviously, you're going to bake. It's about 900 degrees Fahrenheit on the sun side. It's a solid rock planet, pretty small. Definitely no sign, nor will there ever be, signs of life on Mercury. Next one. Venus. Venus is known as one of the planets that we've always wanted to visit because it's about the size of Earth. And it's closer to the Earth's temperament and environment than any other planet, we thought. But it was always covered by clouds. So we could never take a telescope, a large telescope or whatever, or a spacecraft, and photograph Venus without seeing the clouds but not the surface. So we sent a spacecraft up in 1986. It was launched on the shuttle, and then it had a radar in it, Magellan it's called, and it orbited Venus for one total year and photographed the entire surface of Venus because the radar pierced through the clouds and took the pictures of the surface. And here's one of the photographs. Venus is rather rugged, lots of craters, but sometimes smoother craters. It has a dense atmosphere, and that atmosphere contains carbon dioxide, and the clouds contain sulfuric acid. Would you want to live there? And the temperature of Venus is like an oven. It's around 800 to 900 degrees Fahrenheit constantly because it's an oven. And you can put lead in the vehicle and land it on the surface, and that lead would melt. It's that temperature. So obviously no human beings or life of any kind ever existed on Venus. We have a complete map of Venus, so if you look in some of the internets, you can find it. Then I'm just going back to the Earth just for a little bit, because I wanted to remind you what a glorious planet we live on, how fortunate it is that God made it just for us so we can inhabit it. And there's no other planet that has water and land and a mixture and the right atmosphere as Earth. So keep that in mind when we look at the others. Then there's Mars. More planets, more spacecraft have been orbiting Mars or going to Mars than any other planet in our solar system, except for Earth, of course. Mars has a north and a south pole, but I like this picture better. This is my favorite picture of Mars because it shows some of the details of it from afar, not right up on the surface. I'll show you more of that later. It has a Grand Canyon that is 3 times the size of the Grand Canyon in Arizona. That's a big, has anybody been to the Grand Canyon? Probably not, but anyway, it is a beautiful planet in that respect because it has some very interesting things. It also has a mountain up here that is 3 times the height of Mount Everest, and yet Mars is only 1/3 the size of Earth. So it has a lot of interesting features. One, that the astronomers and cosmologists have not figured out what caused this rivulet here. We don't know what kind of liquid that was years ago or what, but there is a rivulet. So we have pursued vigorous programs to find if there's any signs of water, hydrocarbons, amino acids, or whatever that could have been conducive to life years gone by. In 1976, we sent 2 spacecraft up, one on each side of the planet Mars. And this spacecraft dug 6 inches deep into the soil of Mars and brought that soil back to the spacecraft, chemically analyzed it the best we could for amino acids and hydrocarbons, and we found no evidence of any kinds of those elements that could have been conducive to life. Now, that doesn't mean that there wasn't some, but we only saw two parts of the planet. Many of the astronomers and cosmologists said, let's see more. Till we make our decision, let's see more. So we have sent many spacecraft, and Russia as well, to the surface of Mars or in orbit around Mars studying the planet. It has a carbon dioxide atmosphere, only 1/100th that of the Earth. Very small atmosphere. No free oxygen. So you can't breathe there. You have to have your own oxygen. And the temperatures, because it's farther from the sun, go down as low as a minus 134 degrees and never very hot. So it's hard right now. You couldn't believe that anybody could live there unless you had some habitat specially built, which we would have to do if we sent men to Mars. This is a robot. We have 2 of them, Opportunity and Spirit. They've been roving the surface of Mars for about 6-7 years. And these are large, they reach the height of the ceiling, roaming around, looking for signs of life, looking for, again, hydrocarbons, water, whatever. We haven't found anything confidently that we are sure of, so you don't hear much of it in the news, but they're still roving. I doubt, personally, that we will ever find anything on Mars that would give us absolutely data that would show that we ever had any kind of life, even worms, on Mars. Now let's look at the large gaseous planet, the biggest one in our solar system, Jupiter. It is significantly bigger than any that we have. For example, the Earth is it takes 3 years to fill up that red storm on Jupiter. And of course, Jupiter is a very ugly planet in terms of what is in its atmosphere. Helium, hydrogen, sulfuric acid, hydrogen sulfide, you wouldn't want it. And we sent probes down by a spacecraft called Galileo several years ago. Galileo is still in orbit around Jupiter. It sent a probe down to find out how deep that layer of gas is, see if we could reach the core, the solid core. It burned up before we got in there, so we never did find out. But anyway, it is a beautiful planet in some respects because of all that, and it has several moons. And I will show you a picture of some of the moons. This is an artist, it's an actual photographs of the moons, but they set them so you can see this picture. There are many moons. There are at least 18 moons on Jupiter, and this is the Io planet, moon. If you look, I have several pictures of it in other places too. This looks like a pizza. So we have given it the name, the Pizza Moon. And it is like when you cook pizza too. It boils, it has all sorts of volcanic eruptions on it. And these are icy moons, Callisto, Europa, and Ganymede. They look like they might have had some kind of ice on it. Sometimes the ice we get excited about isn't our ice. It's carbon dioxide or dry ice. But of course we can't use that. But we don't know. Up until about 5 years ago, we had plans on visiting one of these. And I've got a picture, if you ever saw it, of a typical spacecraft that would be landing on one of those to find out if there's anything in terms of water. However, it's so cold, because it's far away from the sun, that you could not have our kinds of life on it at all. Okay? Now let's look at another planet, Saturn, the ringed planet. Beautiful rings. We have sent, in Russia too, several spacecraft to Saturn. In 1977, we sent 2 spacecraft back to back, Voyager 1 and Voyager 2. They were on a 12-year mission to visit every one of the gaseous planets. And They went by several thousand miles from the surface of each one of these planets. They even flew through the rings without getting clobbered. The spacecraft could have been defeated, but we tried it anyway, and it was okay. They eked through the rings. These rings have rocks in them that is twice the size of this room. A lot of dust with it too. The big rocks are called shepherd stones. There are about at least 10 major rings in thickness here. Beautiful, beautiful planet. Lots of moons, over 20. And let me show you another picture. The current satellite that is in orbit around Saturn is called Cassini. And Cassini is still there sending back pictures of some of the moons of Saturn and the Saturn planet itself. This is a photograph taken by Cassini when it was out here. And you can see the shadow of the sun against that. But Saturn is something like 1 billion miles away from the Earth, so the temperatures are very, very cold. Nobody could ever live there. But it's still a beautiful planet. And if you have a good-sized telescope in your home, you can look up and you can actually physically see the rings of Saturn, and you know it's Saturn. The next planet in line is Uranus. It's about almost 2 billion miles away from the sun, so it's extremely cold. It is a helium and hydrogen gas planet with a solid core someplace in the middle. The solid core might be liquid hydrogen. The temperatures of these are such that the hydrogen is not a gas, it is a liquid. And then at the outer surfaces it might turn to gas. Some people wonder why the blue of these planets, like Saturn and Uranus and Neptune, and that's because one of the gases is small amounts of methane. And methane does not get absorbed by the surface itself, it gets reflected back. And methane reflects back blue. Okay? And it has a number of moons as well, and it does have some rings. But with our visible eyes or any good telescopes, they're hard to see. But Voyager actually flew nearby and we detected several rings. Nothing like Saturn's, however. And this is Neptune. Neptune is close to 3 billion miles away from the sun. A long, long distance. But a big planet. But it's so cold, we wonder how this could happen. Uranus has winds on it that travel up to 1,200 miles per hour. Very fast winds. You know, a hurricane might have 200 to most 150 miles an hour winds. This has 1,200 mile an hour winds. And the interesting thing is, it has a little cloud right here we call Scooter, because Scooter travels faster than all the rest of the winds. And we don't know. The astronomers and the cosmonauts and the cosmologists don't know why that is. There is absolutely no life ever on Uranus, Neptune, or Pluto, or any of these gaseous planets. But it has a moon that is very interesting. And this is a Triton. Triton is a very big moon, not quite as big as our Earth, but bigger than our moon itself. And it has a coined name, like we called that one moon on Jupiter, the pizza planet, okay, or pizza moon. This is called the Cantaloupe moon. If you ever been in America, we eat this fruit, and I think you do too, but by a different name. It has nice orange meat on the inside, very nice. Melon, it's a melon. And the melon outside looks like that. So we call it the Cantaloupe moon. And being so cold, it still has had volcanoes, and these are signs of extinct volcanoes. All this is mystifying to us, but to God, I believe that it is not mystifying. He designed it in the first place, and it's more for us to enjoy. And then Pluto. I promised to tell you a little bit about Pluto. Pluto is by far the smallest planet in our solar system. However, as of 2006, it is no longer considered a planet. The Committee of Astronomy and Cosmology met together for political reasons and decided that they would no longer consider Pluto a planet. And the reason for that, somebody had discovered some other orbiting vehicles or planets that looked almost as big as Pluto, and they wanted their name on it. And so to iron it out and satisfy everybody, we said, well, we won't call Pluto a planet. Then they can't get their names on it either. And so anyway, it is now not a planet. It's called a dwarf planet. However, in the year 2000, 6 years before we changed its name from a planet to a dwarf planet, we sent a spacecraft from Earth on the way to Pluto. It takes 12 years to get there. So by the year 2012, we're going to have this spacecraft go right by Pluto and take very good pictures of it. And it's happy now because it'll be some attention given to it, the planet, the dwarf planet. And so we've never had a good picture. This has some artist touch-ups on it just to make it look more interesting. But I'll guarantee you, in the year 2012, you'll be able to see very good pictures of this solid rock planet that is almost 5 billion miles out from the sun, extremely cold. We visited the solar system that we live in. That means they're relatively close to our home, only 2 billion or 4 billion miles away. But I wanted to show you a marvel. This is a picture of the Milky Way that we live in. And I put a red X where about the Earth, the Sun, and all of its planets are. But it is so small in this picture you'd never see it. But it's there, okay? The Milky Way is a tremendously big spiral galaxy. And I'm going to go back down here just to show you. If we could get a picture of the Milky Way, it would look something like this. However, we can't get back far enough to take a picture like that, many, many light years away. So we had to take a picture like this. We went into orbit of the Milky Way like a big dish and photographed for 1 year, changing the focus and the spectrum and so forth for 1 year. And this is the picture we got. That means we're looking at the edge of a plate. And to give you an idea, the Milky Way has over 200 billion stars in it, of which the sun is just one ordinary star. And if we saw the distance from one edge of our plate to the other edge of the plate is 100,000 light years. A light year, I don't expect you to understand, except it's the distance that light travels in 1 year. And by the way, it travels 186,000 miles per second. And there's a lot of seconds in a year. So you multiply that by the seconds, and that's how fast it travels. So this is 100,000 of those from here to here. You don't have to remember that, except that if you were in an airplane, a nice jet, and you could fly indefinitely, never having to refuel, starting here and going over here, by the time you reach that side of the Milky Way, it would have taken you 130 quadrillion years. That's how big our Milky Way is. Okay, now let's look at some insides of our Milky Way. These are some of the stars, one of which is our sun. Our sun is fairly small. And then there's some bigger stars. Here's Arcturus. You can see that Arcturus is many times bigger than our sun. Remember? Now remember Arcturus. So we will go one more step. And here is Arcturus. Our sun is so small it doesn't even show. And there's one of the bigger stars in our Milky Way, Antares. So these are all within our Milky Way, 200 billion of them. And stars as large, many, many times bigger than our sun. Our sun is not even visible in this picture. And then, of course, we see this, the giant star cluster. I'm going to show you some pictures taken by Hubble. And this is a giant nebula. A nebula are either decaying or growing stars. Decaying stars turn red, and when they fall apart, they leave a lot of cosmic red dust and a lot of radiation. You wouldn't want to be there whatsoever. Very highly radioactive. And so this is a nebula. And these are stars and interspersed with galaxies in just one shot of the Milky Way. It's just one shot looking out. Now let's look at more. This is the Carina Nebula. Again, you can see that cosmic dust and stars interspersed, once in a while a galaxy in the distance, far extreme distance. Look at the green, very highly radioactive but beautiful. This is the Orion Nebula. Again, swirling gases, dead stars, new stars being created. And the cosmologists have a ball with this. They like it because there's so much to study and there's so much unknown. They never do figure out all this data. It's a lifetime of adventure. And then a Cat's Eye Nebula. The Cat's Eye Nebula is a unique. There's a big giant star in the middle here, and of course interspersed with all sorts of dust and occasional stars. You probably didn't, you've seen these before maybe, but if without seeing those, we would never know this exists out there. And the Eagle Nebula. Again, the astronomers have called this the sign of creation. You can see that these are new stars being formed and old ones decaying, but a very visible sign. And over the years, we can see movements in these cosmic rays and gases. And this is one of my favorite ones, the Crab Nebula. And look at the colors. And of course you see some reds, blues, whites, darks, and in the background a whole bunch of other stars and some galaxies. Beautiful. You could make your wallpaper on that in the wall. And then of course one here that the astronomers have called it. It has a number, M75 or thereabouts, but we call it the Eye of God. We don't know exactly how this is made, but we do believe that this nebula has a lot of decaying stars and decayed stars, but there's maybe a black hole or some old, very large stars in the middle. They think that this tunnel from here to there is maybe 17 million miles long. But we don't know because it's hard to determine. But it's one of the wonders that we have in our universe. And this one I call the Mexican galaxy. It's the sombrero. You know, they wear these cute hats, okay, in Mexico. And this galaxy has about 100 billion stars in it and a very distinct glow in the center, comprised of a lot of stars. So again, there's a galaxy over here, and some of those are bigger, closer stars. A beautiful array, what's in our universe. And then I put a scripture verse in here, found in Psalms, the 19th chapter and the first verse. And this is a supernova. A supernova has not only decaying stars, but growing stars. And that's what all this is. Many, many stars, many growing, many dying. And it says, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows forth His, our God's, handiwork.
Have you benefited from this teaching ministry? Have you found TVS videos helpful and relevant? Please consider supporting TVS with your prayers and financial gifts. For more information, please visit www.tvseminary.com.
In 1975, one of our famous astronomers by the name of Carl Sagan, he was an atheist, and he said, you know, we've looked at all these stars. We can't get close enough to tell what's in them or whether they have planets around them or not. But he said, surely if life began on Earth by chance, why didn't it begin on some of these other stars? That must be the case, he said. So how are we going to find out? We can't send spacecraft there. It would take millions of years to get there. So what are we going to do? Well, he convinced our government to put 8 large parabolic mirrors, let's call them, in 8 different spots of the Earth. And they're focused on 8 different areas of our universe. And they would sit there looking to receive signals coming from those stars, and some of those signals could be intelligent life, because we have a lot of signals coming from the Earth. So someone with a good antenna receiver will be able to detect those. So since 1978, we've had this system operational. It's called the Search for Terrestrial Intelligence, Extraterrestrial Intelligence. Since 1978, for 32 years now, we have found no signals coming from any star that would tell us at all that there's any life out there at all. And before Carl Sagan died several years ago, he told several of my friends that, maybe our experiment has been a failure because we haven't detected any life out there. That surely there has to be life out there, because if it started there, why wouldn't it start here? Of course, I believe God put it there. If he wants it out there, he'll put it there. So anyway, they said, no, Carl, maybe it wasn't a failure. Maybe it's telling us that there might not be any significant intelligent life out there except us. We don't know. So we're still studying it. And of course, an atheist would not want to give up. He would like to know that if it's happened by chance someplace, why hasn't it happened in some of these billions upon billions of stars, and many of them have small planets around them. That's what I said here, no signs of intelligent life for over 32 years. Well, what I'd like to say is we live in this special Earth, and we've seen some of the planets in our solar system, and we know that they don't have any life, and they don't look like our planet Earth. They're primarily gaseous planets or solid core rocks, but not like this. And I don't know if you know Igor, but Igor and I and his wife traveled into this park, Yosemite National Park, one of the most beautiful parks in all the world, and I hope that someday you can get there. It has waterfalls all over. Here's one of them, Bridal Veil Falls over here. I live 60 miles from this park. And it has a mountain, and Igor explains much better than I do. This is called El Capitan, one of the most sought after steep cliff scales or climb that we have in the whole world. So people come from all over the world to scale that mountain. And it takes them a while, usually several days, and they hang their hammocks up here, put pitons in the rock, string the hammock across, and sleep there overnight. And then they also have a crew down below, and they bring the food up and the waste down. And so after a week or so, they scale the top. Many men and women have died doing this at Yosemite National Park. The biggest group were four Japanese that got about 200 to 300 feet from the top of El Capitan, which isn't shown there. And they got in a snowstorm and froze to death. We couldn't catch them. You can't get a helicopter next to the cliff. It's very hard to retrieve them. So, but anyway, if you want to do an exciting climb, you can do El Capitan, but I'm not going to help you. And flowers, gorgeous, gorgeous flowers. We have so many, and you have a lot of them in Russia. Igor is a horticulturist, and he enjoys flowers, and so does his wife. And then, of course, a bird. This is called, in America, a hummingbird. You call it a calliope? Yeah. I took this picture outside my laundry room window. It's only about 3 feet away from, I opened the window and took a picture of it. And they come by, they're very tame, relatively. So anyway, he's a male Anis bird, and he's coming in to get his sweet water. And then, of course, I took this also outside that same window. They come up all year round. But this one is a little 10 to 30 day old fawn. You can see he's got his spots, and his mother's around someplace. I usually feed them. I hold my hand out and with some grain in it, and they'll come up and eat out of my hand. And we have lots of these, lots of deer that are all wild, but they like us because we feed them. And it's a beautiful creature. And then, of course, we're getting to those different kinds of life, a human being. You know, a human being is a chemical, electrical, and mechanical wonder. Everything is so beautifully made. We have kidneys that far surpass the kidneys that man has been able to make out of a kidney dialysis machine. If you have a bad kidney, well, these last for about 100 years. Small. And this is my grandson's. He's 8 years old. He's 6, and he's 5. And this is in our yard, in our front yard. Moss on the trees. What a beautiful earth we live in. And of course, to have people like that, you know, that God has created, is astounding. Really love it.
Now he who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply and increase your store of seed, and will enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way, so that you can be generous on every occasion, and through us, your generosity will result in thanksgiving to God. 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 10, 11. How to give to TVS Ministry. You may give online at efca.org/givenow. In the description place, write Russia Distance Learning, account number 24109-0150. Or make checks out to EFCA. Write on the check memo line, Russian Distance Learning, account number 24109-0150. Mail to EFCA Donor Services, 901 East 78th Street, Minneapolis, Minnesota, 55420-1300. Or send your gift through PayPal for tvs.gift@gmail.com.